Good afternoon. Welcome to the City of Miami Commission meeting for October 23rd, 2024. We are now back in session, and I'm going to ask my colleagues if they mind if we take up the Southeast Overtown Park West CRA meeting, because we've had folks here since, this morning, and I would hate to make them wait until we get through the rest of our commission meetings. So do you guys mind?
Yep.
Okay. So.
Sure. And just briefly, I think the city attorney will just indicate for AC1 that the attorney-client session is concluded.
The attorney-client session under AC1, William O. Fuller et al. Versus the City of Miami et al. Has concluded. Thank you.
So at this time, we will recess the City of Miami Commission meeting for October 23rd, 2025, and begin the Southeast Overtown Park West CRA meeting once the city clerk flips the tape.
We had to amend it because when they printed it up, what we just give it to the commission. Yes. It's going to be withdrawn. Yes. You have a copy of the contract? Huh?
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Southeast Overtown Park West CRA meeting for October 23rd, 2025. I am your chair, Christine King. I'm joined by my colleagues, Commissioner Damian Pardo, chair of the Omni CRA, Commissioner Gabella, to be chair of the Allapattah CRA. I'm just putting it in the universe for you.
Yes. Second.
And Commissioner Rosado. I'm also joined with our Executive Director, Mr. James D. McQueen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have 6 items that are to be presented to you, and our 7th item is to be withdrawn. Items 1 through 6 will be read into the record, but they will be as amended to include the financial forms. The attorney will read those into the record.
Thank you.
So item number 1, a resolution with attachments by 4/5 vote, ratifying, approving, and confirming the executive director's recommendation and finding that competitive negotiation methods and procedures are not practical or advantageous, waiving the requirements for competitive sealed bidding, and further approving a grant request in an amount not to exceed $360,000 to Temple Missionary Baptist Church, Inc., a Florida not-for-profit corporation, to underwrite costs for urgent repairs and rehabilitation of its property, Temple Missionary Baptist Church, located at 1723 Northwest 3rd Avenue. Item number 2 is a resolution with attachments by 4/5 vote, ratifying, approving, and confirming the executive director's recommendation and finding that competitive negotiation methods and procedures are not practical or advantageous, waiving the requirements for competitive sealed bidding, and further approving a grant request in an amount not to exceed $350,000 to Green Chicken Overtown, LLC, a Florida limited liability company, to underwrite costs associated with the build-out of the restaurant, The Green Chicken, at 350 Northwest 1st Avenue, Suite 130. Item number 3, a resolution with attachments authorizing the executive director to execute a lease agreement in a form acceptable to council for CRA property at 480 Northwest 11th Street for an initial one-year term with the option to renew for 4 successive one-year periods at a total annual rent of $1. Item number 4, resolution authorizing the piggyback of the City of Miami Landscape Services pre-qualification pool, IFP number 1380386, pursuant to Section 18111 of the Code of the City of Miami. Item number 5, resolution with attachments accepting the selection committee's recommendation to select the 11 successful bidders as the proposers in response to request for proposals number 25-04 to assist the organization set forth in Exhibit A, attached and incorporated herein, in providing various innovation, crime reduction, and intervention programming initiatives as described in their respective proposals as set forth in Exhibit B within the redevelopment area in fiscal year 2025-2026, further authorizing the allocation of funds in an amount not to exceed $2,415,000 for the program. Item number 6, resolution establishing the SCOPW CRA Small Business Grant Program and approving funding of the program in an amount not to exceed $250,000. Item 7 will be withdrawn, and there's also a pocket item, which I'll read that one into the record as well. This one is a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the Southeast Overtown Park West Community Redevelopment Agency establishing an auditor selection committee and appointing certain individuals to serve as members of the ASC pursuant to Section 218.391 Florida statutes for terms as designated herein, providing for the incorporation recitals and an effective date.
Thank you. At this time, we will open the floor for public comment. If there's anyone here that would like to speak on behalf of any of the items that are before us, please step forward.
Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
My name is Denise DeVoe, and I am a 43-year member of Temple Missionary Baptist Church, located at 1723 Northwest 3rd Avenue, in the heart of historic Overtown. I'd like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to each of you, the commission, the chairwoman, as well as Mr. McQueen, for considering and hopefully a favorable support of our proposal for the renovation of our historic church. Temple is a pillar and has been a pillar in our community for 95 years. And we have been faithfully serving the spiritual, educational, and social needs of our neighbors. Under the leadership of our esteemed pastor, Reverend Dr. Glenroy DeVoe, who is here with us, we continue to build upon that legacy for striving to uplift, empower, and serve the people of this great city. We are honored to have several of our members here with us to support this important item, and we thank each of you for recognizing the value of preserving space that has stood as a beacon for nearly a century. To the City Commission, the CRA, and you, Chairwoman King, we sincerely thank you for your commitment to strengthening our community and for the support of Temple Missionary Baptist Church. We pray that God continues to bless each of you. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Good afternoon to Chairwoman King, the Commission, and the CRA. My name is Talisa Lyons Washington, and I am a 5th generation of 6 generations who've attended Temple Missionary Baptist Church over the last 95 years. My family hails from Overtown from the beginning up till now, and including my children, we have benefited tremendously from Temple Missionary Baptist Church, not only from a spiritual perspective, but also from the different educational perspectives as well. Your consideration to help us continue with improving the infrastructure of the church will allow us to continue to serve those in the Overtown community and at large who come to Temple on a weekly basis, and also in the outreach that we do within the community as well too. We thank you very much also for having an open door to hear what our concerns are and how we want to serve. Public service is at heart to us. And so we thank you for being a city commission that listens and a CRA that takes into account what does it take to sustain Overtown community. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is Reverend Robert Rowe. I'm an associate pastor at Temple Missionary Baptist Church. I want to thank you for considering our proposal for the renovation of our church in historic Overtown, where we have served and been a light of hope for 95 years plus. With our pastor, Reverend Dr. Glenroy DeVoe, serving gracefully for the past 43 years plus, we have continued to extend our mission beyond our walls, providing outreach, support, and spiritual guidance for the people of Overtown, as well as visiting friends. Your consideration of this project helps to ensure that our historic church remains not only a house of worship, but also a center of service and empowerment for generations to come. We are deeply grateful for your commitment to preserving and strengthening the Overtown community, and we thank you for your support. Chairwoman King, commissioners of the City of Miami and the CRA, to you, Mr. McQueen, we thank you again for considering us, for listening to us as we make our appeal. It is our prayer and hope that God continues to bless you ever richly. Thank you again.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Commissioner, as well as CRA Director McQueen. My name is Terrence Cribbs-Laurent. I am the City of Miami Black Police Precinct Courthouse Museum Director. I've had the honor of serving at the hands of the precinct for the last 7 years. This is going to my 8th year. The item that is on the list for our lease is one of great importance to us. The relationship that we've been able to establish within the historical designation space. As you know, there's a lot of our history that is being demolished, destroyed, smeared. And with this type of move by the CRA will allow us a surety that we can continue to serve not only Overtown and South Florida, but all of those that come from near and far to learn about the history of blacks in law enforcement. I am adamant about preserving and protecting the history of Miami. The National Preservation Act that is under attack, that was established in 1966, is now something that we all are looking at as we see what is happening at the White House. And so as we look at these historical spaces in our predominantly communities, we want to make sure that we provide things like leases that allow for low access. So once again, I thank you very much for all the commissioners' vote, and I look forward to furthering the history of Miami.
Thank you. Seeing no one else for public comment, the public comment period is now closed. Gentlemen, may I have a motion to withdraw RE7?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Gentlemen, for the remaining 6 items, are there any items that you would like to pull for discussion?
No.
Seeing none, may I have a motion for RE1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
And Chair, just for record, my apologies. For 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, and 7, they are being adopted as is. Updated financial information forms will be submitted into the record as backup documents for those items. Backup documents only. And then you
And
still
we need
have...
to take up the pocket item. May I have a motion for the pocket item?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you all. Thank you for your advocacy and thank you for the work that you do in our community. Congratulations to you. The Southeast Overtown Park West CRA meeting is now concluded. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Once this clerk flips the tape, we'll be back for the City of Miami Commission meeting.
Chair, we're good to go.
Thank you. Give me 1 second. Gentlemen, may I have a motion to move pocket items 1, 2, and 3?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for pocket items 1, 2, and 3. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Madam Chair,
Yes?
I'd like to move PZ8 and PZ9 for reconsideration, just because there is some urgency behind it, but it's a first reading item. They will come back again, hoping that in between any kind of further information is obtained. Both of these items are District 2 items.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Wait, that was for reconsideration. So now we have to vote on it. Okay. So may I have a motion for PZ item 8 and 9?
So moved.
Chair. So for PZ8, it's my understanding that PZ8 needs to be amended to include PZAB information in the first whereas clause, in addition to amendments detailed in a substitution memo dated October 20th, 2025, and distributed on October 23rd, 2025 at 9:56 a.m.
So I have a motion and a second for PZ 8 and 9 as amended. All in favor?
Aye.
And just for the record, PZ8 will be as amended.
As-
PZ9 as is.
As is. As amended PZ 8, as is PZ 9.
Chair,
And-
I'd like to defer DI2 and DI3.
Yeah. Well, you know. May I have a motion to defer DI 2 and 3?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Chair, is that to November 20th?
That's fine.
Yes.
Last time, I promise.
Okay. Okay. So we now have, do you want to tackle FR 9?
Yep.
Yep. Let's go with FR 9. Someone pulled it for discussion.
Yeah, that was, I believe Rosado and I pulled it.
I do. Actually, on this one, I've been working closely with the Assistant City Manager on a presentation, which I think she's going to upload, and we can co-present, essentially. She's coming up to the podium.
Yeah, I was wondering if I can do my presentation, because you guys are answering to what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, I think you were going to present yours first.
Yeah, mine's just real
Yeah, no,
brief.
that makes perfect sense.
I'll make my video and then my presentation. And Gaston, where are you? You ready? So in brief, this is Grapeland Water Park in the District 1, my district, the city of Miami, where also the Freedom Park is being built. And I just want to bring light. I went to this park about a month ago. I and my team went because I had complaints that the park was only opening up 1 or 2 months out of the year. and I wanted to get down there to see what was the problem. And when we got down there, I find out that this park was built in 2008 to the cost of $8 million to the taxpayer. When this park was opened by then former Commissioner Angel Gonzalez, this park every day in the summer was full, and as a matter of fact, there were lines for kids to go to the park, families and whatnot. I learned that for I don't know how many years now, the park has been open 2 months out of the year. 2 months out of the year, folks. And the excuse is, what I've been given as excuse was that, you know, when there's a little cold here in South Florida, nobody wants to go in the water. And I said to the person, but wait a minute, you know, we're in South Florida. You know, we have maybe 2 months of winter here, 1 month, and that's it. You know, why is the park being closed? Oh, you know, maintenance issues and this and that. Well, of course, if you close, you know, you got pumps, you got electrical items, you got mechanical parts, seals, you know, things that don't move. And this is like a car that I'm scared I'm scared more of the 20,000-mile car than the 100,000-mile car. Unless you're going to buy that car as an investment, you know, then you don't want the low mileage. But you know, if you want a good, reliable car, the ladder is probably your best bet because it's been around and they've done the maintenance. The pumps here have to be taken out every so often. Why? Because they're not being run for 10 months. Then they go on to say, well, you know, we got to paint every so often. Of course, you don't have water 10 months out of the year, so the UV rays are getting, you know, the water actually like a protection. That's why. And look, and there you have a park, an asset that has been there since 2008. That, by the way, receives $350,000 from a sign just adjacent to the park to help maintain the park. I was told that 60,000 people attended this year. If you do the math and say $5 or 60,000, how much is that? And then the $350 with the sign business, you almost got like $1 million. And yet they're losing money and they can't seem to operate it. They haven't thought about maybe corporate events that I suggested, sprucing up the park a little bit. They said that they had like 36 lifesavers. Well, maybe the most dangerous, you know, attraction, you get rid of that, you know, and you save yourself 12 lifesavers. But, you know, this isn't a reason, but, you know, it's not a good reason to have this asset there. And then now the Freedom Park is coming to town, okay, and you're telling me that you can't make money there? You know what I mean? And the residents complaining because this was, you know, people like this, you know, in the summer. And we're operating it like we don't care, you know, and I'm making light of this because I don't want to see this, what's gone on here for years apparently, happen to Bayfront Trust, Commissioner Padu, which is in your area. You know what I mean? I don't want to be blamed, okay, for stupidity on January the 1st because we dissolved the park into something else, okay? When you guys made me chairman of the park, I became chairman of the park. I tried to right the ship. That's what we've been doing. We've done a lot of changes. You know, and without going into personalities, Commissioner Rosado, you came along and you had this great idea, but the problem is you hampered me in the sense how to be able to negotiate and operate on behalf of the Bayfront Trust. And why is that? And why am I telling you that? How did you guys kind of hamper me and my team, my board, and the executive director and the staff? Because people perceive at the minute that you put out there that this park was going to be dissolved and no more as that function, okay? On January 1st of 2026, you created a cloud over our heads and you reduced our ability to negotiate and have good terms for the park. A perfect example is we're doing the New Year's Eve, and we had a meeting, and the artists, in light of, you know, the news that they're listening to, because remember, these guys are not in our bubble. They don't know what's going on. They think they're not going to be paid on January the 1st. So what did they want? They wanted to be, you know, the New Year's event, you know, they wanted to be paid 50% up front and 50%, in other words, the remaining balance of we would owe them once the New Year's festivities were concluded. On December 1st, they wanted to be paid in full, and I can't do that as a responsible, you know, my fiduciary duty as the chairman of the park, you know, because that would be irresponsible on my part. How am I going to pay you 100% when you got another month to go and you got to show up? But they're doing this because they think they have a fear that we're not going to be around, and thus you've reduced our ability to negotiate on good faith for the park. I, as chairman, and the board have presented a resolution of what we think our best, you know, action, our best advice is to you, this board here in the commissioners, okay, to not do this because of what, you know, what we've done, what's being done in the park, and you know, you mentioned a conservancy. A conservancy really is when you need to fundraise for that park because that park or that entity doesn't generate money itself. And then, by the way, you have to give control to that entity there, so we wouldn't be in control on a conservancy basis, okay? What I'm presenting to you guys is, okay, I want to rescind what's going to happen on January the 1st, okay, to a later date sometime next year when there's a new commissioner. We all take it up again, and then if at that time you want to go ahead and do it again, then so be it. But as for me, you know, I have to make my case. I am the chairman, and what's my job? You know, to set policy, to see where we're going, the future, the vision of this park, okay? And this is one thing that we see that it's not going to a good place. So it's my job to tell you, to come here and tell you, okay, that this is a bad idea, that we will not be held responsible, whatever happens on January 1st, if we continue this way. Especially you, Commissioner Pardo, because remember, I am Commissioner of District 1. I am not Commissioner of District 2. And I consider it a privilege that I can serve in your area and help bring along the park to what's best in my ability and my board's ability. And then we give a directive to Raul Miro, the executive director, to carry out our policy, our vision, and that's exactly what we've been doing. We've been there for 6-7 months, and we've done a lot of changes in the park for the good, okay? And listen, the prior commissioner did, I imagine, some things right, because we can't, you know, everything is not bad. You know, I have many flaws, all right? I have many flaws, you know what I mean? And so I'm not perfect, you know, but without going into the details of the bad, what has happened, it didn't happen, or whatever, we righted this ship, okay? We changed the meetings, for example, from 12 o'clock at noon that people were working to 6 o'clock so people can participate. We changed financials. From 2019, that park, you know, it was told that things, you know, guardrails needed to be put in place, and they weren't, okay? And we did that now, okay? And I don't want to go back to negativity. The fact of the matter is, okay, that we think this is a bad idea. We're operating that park, and we think this is a bad idea. And I just showed the movie of the water park, which I'm going to change, by the way, because I vowed my residents that that's going to change. Okay, that misuse of a city asset, and you give me the excuse that you're opening up 2 months out of the year because there's cold here in Miami, give me a break. Give me a break. And this is what I'm talking about. When government, sometimes we get a hold of something, things get messed up. Nobody has an interest in that park. Why is that park open 2 months out of the year? Why is that park in that condition? Why? Because nobody seems to have an interest. The residents have an interest. Time and time and again, they've called my office, and that's why I finally went over there to see what really is going on, and I learned what's going on, and I'm scared that if this is the route we're going, Commissioner Pardo, you're going to have a problem in your hands, and at the end of the day, it is your district. I will not be held responsible for whatever happens on January the 1st if we continue to go this route, because I'm seeing a disaster unfold before our eyes. I think this should be rescinded. And next year, when we have more thought into this and the politics are out of the game and we have a new commissioner, then we can go back and then maybe, you know, if you want to tinker with it or whatever the case might be, then that's fine with me. But please lift this negative, you know, cloud that you guys, you know, you made me chairman and then you hang this cloud on top of me that I can't negotiate in good faith, and I got it because people perceive that we're not going to be for naught in January the 1st. So I ask you, put yourself in my shoes. You know what I mean? If I would be director of the DDA like you are, you know, you wouldn't want that happening to you because, you know, you'd be a lame duck chairman, you know, and that's what you guys have made us into. And I'm not happy about that because I'm trying to do the best I can. My board is trying to do the best they can. The staff is trying to do the best they can. And yet they have this thing, you know, what are we going to be, Cabela? Are we going to have here? Are we going to have jobs? Are we not going to have jobs? You know, the same thing for the clients, you know, for Ultra, the other one, the list goes on and on. So I urge you, please, I urge you, okay, let's not get into this. Let's rescind this. And next year, when there's plenty of time and you know, heads are cool and all that stuff, and we get another commissioner here, we can go ahead, you know, and then do it again if you guys want to do it again. But give me a chance, you know, to you know what I mean, to right that ship. Give me a chance to finish my job, you know, and lift this cloud that you guys have hanging over our head right now of the lack of what's going to happen tomorrow. Please, I ask you. Thank you. That's my presentation.
Commissioner Rosado?
Yeah, Assistant Manager Hernandez is connecting the presentation. We were actually scheduled to put this on the November agenda, but when this item came up, we expedited it. And we're gonna co-present.
Hector, can you come back? Thank you. Good afternoon, Barbie Hernandez, Assistant City Manager over Operations. So on July 11th, the second reading to transition the trust to the city administration effective January 1st was passed, and the commission gave direction to the administration to look at options. So we did. We looked at several options. Two of the highest options were the conservancy hybrid approach and creating a department division. After communicating this with all offices, including the mayor, the preferred and recommended option was to create a division under the city manager's office. Creating the division / department would be reporting to either the city manager designee or deputy city manager or assistant city manager, separate from other departments. It would also create an enterprise fund account so that the account would stay solely for the revenue that would come from Bayfront and Maurice Ferry Park, along with going back out to Maurice Ferry Park and Bayfront Park. The proposed table of organizations, I did make it larger because I know last time it was a little small, would be similar to what a department would have. A division director, an assistant director. It would be similar to what is going on out there currently right now, the way they are structured with maintenance, recreation and program planner, maybe put more recreation out there, finance and HR services, but it would also link to other departments such as the OCI, Office of Capital Improvement, to align with certain capital projects. Proposed strategic plan would be, like I stated earlier, would be to create enterprise fund, continue all events that were approved, and we would, of course, whatever invoices or anything that is going on, we would pay. We're a city, we're a team. We don't believe in the separation. Adopt and implement the City of Miami policies and procedures. I think it's really important to be consistent across the board. Define a mission and vision and objectives of goals, develop a comprehensive park master plan, which I know they've started already, review and renegotiate current contracts. We believe that reviewing some of these contracts would probably be able to generate even more revenue for those parks. Create SOPs for certain divisions, complete proposed capital projects, and then also look into bidding out the Pepper Fountain maintenance, because we need to make sure that's done. I want to put in front of you that this is not common. The trust does, the parks does make money. They created, and I say they because it was a team effort. It's been going on for the last 4 or 5 years. When I oversaw it for the 3 months, as you all know, that I oversaw it. And it is unique in the sense that it does make money. And so you see that the revenue, the income coming in has increased. These are the revenues from fiscal year 23 to what's proposed in 26. And these are the expenditures that have happened in the last 4 years. The main source of revenue are the dockage, the Skyview surcharge, the signs, the Ultra contract, the CRA downtown $2 million that goes to specifically Maurice Ferry Park, the Live Nation agreement, and the special events permits. Those are the top revenue generators. So the next steps is what we would recommend is we would create the new division with the enterprise fund. And then we would, any net revenues after expenses, debt services, and capital reserves would be divided through a funding policy, which we would all still need to create. Commissioner Rosado had an idea to focus on, we lost that fund, the grant that came from the federal government for the
Underdeck.
The Underdeck, what was formerly known as the
Heritage Trail.
Underdeck, which is the Edward T. Graham Trail concept. So one of his ideas, and I'm going to turn it over to him so that he can, elaborate on his idea.
Yeah, we know that the underdeck is a project that's very important to the chairwoman and really to the entire commission and to the.
Reverend Edward T. Graham.
Well, I was about to transition to the new name. It was important enough, in fact, that the more generic name was transitioned to something that was worthy of the asset that it will be, without a doubt. And in thinking about it, I was brainstorming one day, and I realized it's contiguous to the other parks that are along the waterfront, and there's really no reason why we shouldn't have a new entity that actually embodies all of these areas and is able to tap into the revenue that's generated from Bayfront and from Maurice Ferré to bring the dream of the Graham Greenway to fruition. Given the excess revenue that it does generate, it would allow us to bond the improvements and therefore be able to tackle a project that otherwise wouldn't materialize. Once we lost that grant that covered approximately 75% of the project's costs, it was a challenge for all of us, and we think that the community absolutely deserves to have the Graham Greenway.
Excuse me, Commissioner, are you the chairman of Bayfront Trust right now, or am I?
I am not. This is going to be my recommendation.
But this is what I'm talking about. This is exactly what I'm talking about. I am now the chairman of the Bayfront Trust, as voted, and you're acting, sir, like if this is your vision, this is your thing. So maybe we should switch roles. I shall be in the DDA, and you come over to the Bayfront Trust Fund. You know what I mean? Because this is exactly what I am talking about. Okay. In other words, there's a cash pile there to the credit of the former commissioner. Okay, let's give him that, part he's due. And there's a $25 million pot of, money there, liquid, sitting. If the whole reasoning for this whole thing is to get a hold of that money and spend on something else, then hell, you guys should have told me that from the beginning what I was going to get into, you know what I mean, and gone that route. Okay, but I say again, sir, who is the chairman of the Bayfront Trust? Would you like it for me to go over there and meddle in your business and tell you, you know what, let's do this, let's do that? When my tenure's over, if you want to become Bayfront Trust, I'll vote for you. I'll vote for you, and I won't hamper you by hanging all this stuff, that you're talking about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
With all due respect, Commissioner.
Understood. Commissioner, I have nothing but respect for you. My initial concerns about Bayfront are the same ones that I've had for many years, like many people, which is what we know has happened
but that happened, let's be clear here. That happened under the tenureship for 8 years of Commissioner Carollo, not Miguel Ángel Gavela. Miguel Ángel Gavela has been there for 7 months. Let that be clear on the record, okay? And the reason I was put there is because what was going on prior to the 8 years. And immediately, when I get when I become chairman, Barbie and others come to my office and they say, we got a great idea. We think that you should privatize, take the park out of Bayfront Trust. And I said to Barbie, do you remember this conversation, Barbie? I said, gee, that's a great idea, but I got a question for you guys. How come you guys never did this under Carollo when he was there for 8 years? Why is it that I get there as chairman and all of a sudden I'm being asked to do something other with the park? What a coincidence, you know what I mean? For 8 years, the man was there for 8 years, and there was a problem there, I've been told by people that come here. Then all of a sudden, I become the chairman, and now there's a problem with the new chairman that I'm trying to right the ship, and I get all these kinds of things. The minute I become chairman, I get all these kinds of say, gee, the park should be this, and the park should be that. But I didn't hear anybody say that the prior 8 years to the former commissioner, with all due respect, that was there. So I feel like I'm being picked on. For that, I wish somebody would said to me that this is going to happen, and I would have turned down the position of commissioner with all due respect. You know what I mean? Because what I don't want, and the whole thing I'm fighting here for is, to give me a chance to do the right thing, and later this year, when 26 comes around, if you guys want to go do that, but at least let me serve my chairmanship, with dignity, you know what I mean, that I'm trying to right the ship because of what happened. Remember, the reason you guys replaced me, I think you were here, Mr. Torres, you were one of the ones that would speak out against what was going on there, were you not? I think I got my memory straight, right? And you had all kinds of people, all this is going on in Bayfront Trust. All right, that's why I became chairman of Bayfront Trust. Now I am the chairman of Bayfront Trust. I think this is a bad idea. Wait till my tenure is over. Don't vote for me if you don't want to, and then you make all these changes that you want to do. But you screwed everything up, with all due respect, by saying we're going to do this on January 1st, because then you just made me a lame duck thing. If I were to tell you that the DDA is going to be changed in January 1st, you know what would happen, and this is what I'm talking about.
Commissioner Pardo?
No, go ahead.
Huh? So, I was absent the day this was voted for, and I was surprised, and I just asked our city clerk to give me the votes, and Commissioner Carollo voted against it, but Commissioner Gabella, Commissioner Pardo, and Commissioner Rosado voted in favor.
I made a stupid mistake.
I
Mr.
understand.
I got caught
Okay,
up
'cause,
in a minute. I
you
made
know,
a stupid mistake, Thelma.
but-
I should have voted against it, by the way, but I was caught up in the moment. I was caught up in the moment.
So
Guilty
now-
as charged, by the way.
now we're here, and this is what I have talked about repeatedly. We make these decisions based on personalities, and now what? Less than a few months later, we want to undo it, and I don't think that is good for our community. We set the staff on a task to do a job. They've done a great job. I think they have a solid proposal, and I like it. And that was before the addition of the Reverend Edward T. Graham, but that does make sense, irrespective of where the idea came from, because I get what you're saying about you're the chair, he's not the chair, but this is overall the city of Miami. So it's the will of the body. I believe that what staff has presented is a solid plan. And frankly, it scares me with the new administration. Then what will they say? You know, it's just, we have to make legislation based on what's best for the community and not in the moment where our personalities get involved and then we're back at it and we have a different idea. So if anybody wants to make a motion, I'll entertain it.
I will say, I did want to say one thing, Madam Chair. I think there are some real concerns about transition and what happens on January 1, and to make sure that balls aren't dropped. And all of this being in District 2, I'm very concerned about that transition happening when we have FIFA and we have all these Ultra and all these other events, and how payables get run, how employees get transferred, kind of like the nuts and bolts. So I would appreciate from staff maybe a more concrete, detailed transition plan that goes through some of that. I don't know if you're prepared to address that now, or...
So ultimately, any transition plan and a more detailed plan will require a lot more input from this body, right? And or you could also workshop it. I mean, that's also another idea. You could, you know, and I know that there are at least a number of you that like to get a lot of community input on that. This was our really evaluation and suggestion and options that were presented. It's not concrete in any way. You know, ultimately, it really requires a little bit of guidance from the commission. So I'm happy to proceed down whatever road you think might be more efficient and more productive. I'd look for you for some guidance. The timing of it is, you know, for us, the timing is, you know, we're agnostic to that. I don't really, it doesn't matter when it happens, if it doesn't happen. I mean, in the end, we're taking the direction from the body, and we'll execute whatever plan you feel is the one you want to move forward with. Tell us how you want to do it. Tell us if you have a specific recommendation in terms of the presentation that's been made. We'll move on that as quickly as we can, or as slow as we can, as you give us guidance to do. So I'll defer to the body.
Speaking only for myself, I'm comfortable with what was presented. I'm comfortable with the timeline that we've already established. And I just want to be clear to my colleague, this has never been about disrespect or supporting one person or opposing another. Like I mentioned in my first several meetings, and maybe it's time I say it again, I'm not here to discuss people, I'm here to discuss ideas. I think this is the right direction. I think we established well before your chairmanship or the previous chairman's chairmanship that it's an agency that's been designed for a variety of reasons to ultimately result in scandals. So there may be some positive months, and then we end up at the same place where people are getting in trouble, all kinds of questions, we're reading about it in the paper.
Let him finish.
During my tenure, give me one
Under-
negative scandal that we have.
Commissioner, don't interrupt him. Let him finish, and
yeah.
then you can respond.
Yeah, Commissioner, again, it's not about you. I'm not questioning you. I've been questioning since day one the governance structure for this in the same way that I've questioned why we haven't moved forward on things like the Olympia and Marine Stadium and a number of items that I don't care to rehash at the moment. But the reality is the way we structured certain things, we've set ourselves up for failure. And I think that's ultimately where this agency ends up, perhaps under the next chairman. But I still think that that's exactly where we end up. In addition, and this was not something that I conceived of over the summer, but it was more recent, when we lost that grant, I said, this is one more thing that the city of Miami has promised to the public that maybe we're never able to deliver upon. And in this case, it wasn't our fault. Nobody in here in the room made a decision or made a mistake. It's the federal government saying, hey, this $60 million grant that we were giving you, we're taking it back. And suddenly we're going to have a huge glaring hole and a project that's been promised to the community for decades, a community that was clearly very disrespected historically. They just lost something beautiful that they should have received. And I found now a solution for how we actually get to deliver on that and continue the increasingly important operations of all these parks that are on our waterfront as well. I just cannot think of a better solution than to move in the direction that we've already established that we should be moving in.
I think for District 2 residents, it's important that there's more contact with the city, more tangible contact with the city. They've been very open, very vocal, very clear about not wanting signs in the park, about the PAM settlement, about a million things. And oftentimes their voice is simply not heard. I think falling under a city structure and as an enterprise fund where that revenue is still captured and maintained separately, that may be a better outcome as far as residents being close to it and our office being able to have any impact at all, which currently has little impact.
And if I could add just two more things, it keeps those dollars that are generated downtown, rather than just moving ultimately into the general revenue. So the folks that are paying for those events downtown, the folks that live there, we're able to capture those dollars, keep them there, make improvements that they are the first ones to benefit from because it's where they live. The other thing is, downtown residents have been asking for us to talk about what is the future of Bayfront, and I didn't want to say anything publicly until we knew where we were going. I think we've now established where we're going, and I'm happy to meet with those people at each of the condo associations and walk them through this. They deserve that.
And one more thing I did want to add, I do think it's incredibly important that we worry about a transition, and I think Commissioner Gabella has a good point in that he's hampered, like there is this period of time where he cannot conduct business. I think we're at risk, and I think it's important to understand what does that mean for what happens January 1, or are we looking at some other date? I think it's important to have that conversation and for the city manager to really kind of at least lead the effort with
I mean, Commissioner Gabella does make some compelling points relative to the timing, right? In part because he's got a major event happening on January 1st. So
employees.
Yeah. But the employee issue, that's not as immediate because once you transition it, they're still employees, right? I mean, they just get onboarded to the city. Ultimately, there may be some reorganization, but I'd be a lot less worried about that than I am dealing with vendors, dealing with issues that are really relevant to what in essence is probably the biggest event second to Ultra. Sorry, that's not really the biggest event that's held there, because Ultra is way bigger. But there is a major event that's being held at the end of the year. So if the recommendation would be to push that back maybe a month or two, or whatever time period you feel, I don't care. I mean, like it's
Listen,
again,
that's fine with
we're
me.
agnostic to it. I want to,
Understand this. You are not going to have to pry my hands, okay, to not be chairman of the Bayfront Trust. I'm not that. I'm not Gallo. You don't have that problem, okay? I don't think the park is mine. I'm not under any illusion. But let me do my job right. Don't hamper me by hanging this cloud over my head, and then give me a month or two, and then we transition. That's it, and we do whatever you guys, think that we should do. That's all I'm saying. But that deadline of January 1st, and then you're having that event December 31st presents a problem of timing, and that's what I'm trying to say to you guys. I will step down. I got enough. When you came in, I think you said that you had enough stuff when we recommended you to the DDA. I got enough stuff going on in my district now with the Freedom Park that, you know what I mean? At the end of the day, I need that like I need a hole in my head. I don't. But since you put me there and I'm already there, I want to do the best job I can. And that's all I'm saying to you guys. I'll leave it at that.
Okay, so the item FR7, do I have a motion? I'm sorry.
Motion,
FR
okay, I'll make a
FR9.
motion, I'll make a motion to not rescind, but to extend for 3 months into January, February, March, and then March, we do the transaction. We do the transfer. Whatever that transfer is going to look like, and whatever that transfer we all agree on.
Well, I don't think you can do it in March because Ultra is in March, so you would need to do the transition before that because then that would
All right,
bring us to
February?
where we are
Either before Ultra or after Ultra.
before.
I'm sorry, Carlos?
Sorry, any speakers we should have on the record?
Right. Do we need any? I don't think that's an issue. It can, be January 31st. It can be February 1st. Because that's pretty much a well-oiled machine. So, am I hearing that we want to withdraw FR9?
No, I don't want to withdraw it. What I want to do is, yes, rescind. It's clear to me I don't have the votes to rescind the whole thing. Is that correct, Commissioner? Especially I rely on you because you're the D2 Commissioner. At the end of the day, you're the one that's going to be affected most, and I'm trying to take care of that situation. Okay, so what I suggest is that we amend it. I make my amendment, okay, and let's say Ultra's in March, we do it in April. I step down in April, okay, and you guys do your transfer, whatever that transfer is going to look like, you know what I mean? And we're done. You know what I mean? Conservancy, no conservancy, I'll still have my vote, but that's what we do. And then we don't have this thing hanging overhead that January the 1st is like, what happens on January the 1st?
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Well, Madam Chair, could I just complicate things further?
Okay. Wouldn't be the city of Miami if you didn't.
That's right. This ordinance is drafted for first and second reading to say it rescinds completely the previous ordinance.
So we need to withdraw
So
it.
my suggestion would be we have November and December. We withdraw this one. We come back in November with a new amendment extending the period of time to whatever time you
All
instruct
right,
me
so
to do it.
motion to withdraw.
And then
Based on what you just said.
directing us to come back with a question.
Correct.
And it would be February, like February 28th or
Yeah,
something?
whatever this body thinks is fair, I think February would be a fair date.
So I have a motion to withdraw FR9.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
All right.
Aye. Okay. We now have a few discussion items. My office is calling me. Hello.
D1, that's mine.
Hey, I'm in commission meeting. What's up? Okay, I'm gonna get my staff to call back in 5 minutes. I'm gonna get my staff to answer my phone, and they can do that for you. Okay? Can you call Elenise? Do you have her number? I'm in the middle. I'm in commission meeting. Yes, please call either one of them and tell her to get my purse. Okay, bye. Sorry, that was my law office. DI1, Commissioner Cabello, you said that.
Okay, DI1 was stemmed from, here we go again. DI1 stemmed from a problem that Carollo and I had where when I did my update here, to report on what the things that we found in Bayfront, he called the city manager and wanted my properties investigated in the city of Miami without no cause really, because I went to the MRC building after that and I came here and I produced as evidence all my properties going back 25 years that I had zero violation, period, in the story. Remember that, George, when I turned that over as...
Yes, sir.
And then I also turned over his documents, which he has redacted, and you can't even see what he had or didn't have, but he drew first blood, and I had to do what I had to do to defend myself. And this stems off of that I said, fine, you think, we know why you're doing this, I know why you're doing this, you have a track record, but if you want to do it, we go to a third party. And I think, Art, you went to the county, and could you enlighten us on where we're at and why this is still here?
As instructed and part of the conversation we had when the item was up in the last week, we discussed it. Obviously, as the body and scope of the commission meeting. We approached a number of outside municipalities from the county all the way to individual cities. I can run through the list if you'd like. It's probably about 12, 14 municipalities. None were willing to step in and act on behalf of the city in a code enforcement action. In this way, we also, had already approached two private entities. I know that last time we met, that was removed from consideration, but we had approached two private entities. One declined. The other one said they would certainly be willing to provide the service of providing an independent code enforcement process for us. But in general, the specific guidelines we were given, we weren't able to find any takers to assist us in that. So we are back to square one. So at this point, I sort of lean into the body again for some direction or recommendation. We've talked ad nauseum about, the complexities of having a code enforcement department handle code enforcement cases, specifically with elected officials. Has the propensity to have no winner in the outcome, because if for some reason we don't find anything, it's because we're covering up. If we do find something, it's because we're targeting. I mean, it sort of has probably not a clean outcome when it's all said and done.
But listen, even Carollo himself, when he came into office 5 years ago, presented here an ordinance that the City of Miami Police Department cannot investigate elected officials. Yet, he had a problem with this because I was doing exactly the same thing. That I'm saying, you know what, Pablo has a problem in his house, and because I want to get up Pablo because I got a political vendetta against Pablo, right? What do? Do you go over there and make up stuff? Because that's what's going to be done to me in light of his track record. I mean, that's the honest truth here, what's going on. And that's why we got into this, okay? That's why we got into this, you know what I mean? Because it was very simple. He called his chief of staff called you, and now you're in the crosshairs. And you got to go investigate my property, you know what I mean? But I, sir, introduces evidence to you that I got 0 violations according to the own City of Miami. I produced that because I got nothing to fear.
Yeah.
But I can't put myself in the hands of the gentleman that right now we just had a state meeting.
Yeah, we're not in a position to speak on any merit of what code complaints were or not, because we've taken no action. So at this point, it's just, I need guidance on when and if this, obviously specifically to this current situation, but then how do we handle future cases? If it's the will of the body that we treat elected officials like everybody else, that's one outcome. If it's, hey, look, in light of the sensitivity here, we find an alternative solution that doesn't involve another government entity, we go to the private sector for that, that's another solution too as well. So I look for you for guidance.
What about using the Office of the Independent Inspector General?
Would that be within their
Yeah, but that presents a problem because I'm being targeted here. I am being targeted here. My wife is being targeted here. You guys are going to have lawsuits up and down because my wife is a private citizen. She's my wife. She's half and half. She owns all our properties together. I have 3 properties in the City of Miami. I'm not going to be a sitting duck for Carollo or any of Carollo's thing. I think I made that clear months ago. I am not going to be a sitting duck because then you know what I'm going to start to do? If I'm being retaliated against, I'm going to start to call you up, Art, and I'm going to say, you know what? I want you to investigate King, Rosado, everybody here. And then let's make up stuff. And that's what I'm talking about, a weaponizing government. And that's why I agreed with Commissioner Carollo, oddly enough, that I wanted to know more about the Inspector General, okay? So weaponizing of government does not happen, okay? This is what it is.
So the question was, could the independent inspector general do it? Under the Chapter 2 of the City Code, whoever the manager designates as a code inspector can conduct code investigations. It's not necessarily within the parameters of the inspector general's duties and powers, so it would be extraordinary, and he would have to accept the task, of course, but it's possible.
Thank you.
In terms of investigating the commission on code-related matters, I think it should be left to the private sector. I think it's absolutely a no-win for our employees to have to do this, and I'd like to see that there's a level of detachment. I'm not sure that it would be a good idea for the Inspector General to be
No, that
involved in
wouldn't,
these
I don't
kinds of
think so
matters
either.
either.
No, I don't think that's a good idea. Look, I was put in that position by Commissioner Carollo because simply I reported on what was going on with a public entity in Bayfront Trust. My house, my properties, my wife's properties, our house is not a public entity. We don't do business with the city of Miami. There's nothing to investigate there. I produced a clean bill of health for all my properties. End of story. End of story. Okay? The gentleman has a track record. We have his transcripts where he says, I quote, I did this in retaliation for what happened basically in Bayfront Trust. 1 hour before I had the meeting here, he calls his chief of staff and directs his chief of staff to send Art the thing that he thinks my house, my duplex has code violations. The pictures that he submitted were 20 years old. Okay, were 20 years old. Okay, he lied. Okay, because he was upset at me because what I had produced here that we found in Bayfront Trust. Period. End of story. You know what I mean? End of story. That's what happened here. You know why we're even being attention to you when we know already. We just had a shame meeting on somebody getting in trouble because of this same behavior. Okay, that's being perpetuated against me 3 months ago. Okay, I'm not going to let that happen, folks. I'm not going to let that. Put yourself in my shoes. How would you like it, Rosado, if somebody said to you in the DDA, hey, this and that, go investigate Rosado? How the hell does that look? Is that even professional? You know what I mean? I mean, come on, man.
If the private sector can handle it, what would that look like? Why not just go do it?
Why do I have to be put in that, sir? Why do I have to be put in that position?
I'm not putting you.
Am I a delinquent here?
I'm not putting you in any position. I'm just trying to solve your
Am
problem.
I a delinquent here?
No, obviously not.
City manager, do you have in prior years complaints on my house from neighbors? Complaints? Do you have any records on my house on all my properties?
Not that I'm aware of.
Not that you're aware, right?
I don't have any complaints.
So then why, again, I repeat, why do I have to be sitting in this
Commissioner
here
Bella?
explaining myself of a code thing? Because Commissioner Carollo decided that he wanted to do to me what he did to other people, in my view and in my opinion. And that's why now the city of Miami is facing multiple lawsuits because of that stupidity, okay,
Commissioner
that somebody did.
What is your resolution? What is your offer?
Let's not do anything. Just drop it, okay? And then the next time he does the same thing, I'll do the same thing. Okay, I'll do the same thing because there's no way in hell that I'm going to be picked on here and I'm not going to fight for my wife and I. Okay, because you know what? If I don't have any violation, he's going to make it up. All right, they'll make it up. They'll find something. You know what I mean? Nobody's perfect here. You know what I mean? An outlet of this or that. I don't know. I don't want to be put in that position because I think I made myself clear. I'm not a delinquent. I submitted my proof that I have 0 violations. The most I got on my duplex is 3 violations for the tenants moving out early and putting the furniture out on the thing, and I paid the $150. I didn't call anybody to take the money. I paid the fine. I told, please don't do it again when you move up. And in my house, 0. And then he talks about that I have boats and I have this. Well, listen, buddy, okay, I'm a capitalist, and I'm in a free country, you know what I mean? And if you're envious or whatever, go buy yourself a boat. They got a lot of boats out there. Okay, but don't be telling me that I have this boat and I can't have that boat when he doesn't even know because he's throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks because I'm his political opponent here on this dice and I tell it like it is and he doesn't like it. Okay, end of story. So you know what? There's nothing to do this. If the county doesn't want to take it, it's dropped and that's it.
Madam Chair, you want a quick 10-minute break?
Actually, I'd like to propose.
Commissioner Rosado?
Yeah, I'd just like to propose if this issue comes up again, that we use an outside provider to make a determination. That would be my recommendation. Yeah.
I think the city attorney needs to weigh in because here is our challenge that a complaint was made and Ace is shaking his head. A complaint was filed and you just can't ignore it.
Okay, then I'm going to file a complaint right now with my chief of staff. Frank, you're going to file a complaint against the chairwoman, against this, and against this. Everybody here goes. Let's go. Frank, when you get to the office, you file and you send it to him. You forward it to him.
That's perfectly
because
fine.
I can play that. If I'm going to be singled out and you guys don't care what happens to me, let's all go in the pool.
It's not a matter of
No, you know he's picking on me. You know he's picking on me because him and I have history here.
I'm going to say, I'm going to agree with you. He is picking on you.
Yeah, he's picking
absolutely picking on you. But once a complaint is filed, the city of Miami has a legal obligation to investigate that complaint. And I'm not saying you, and I'm agreeing with you that you got picked on, but we don't have the authority to say we're not going to do anything about it. You asked for...
And you will have another lawsuit on top of your head. My wife will be filing a lawsuit
Well,
on top of the city of Miami,
that's
and we will win, because you know what? He's got priors. He's got priors. He's done this before, and that's why now the city of Miami is paying millions of dollars, and he pretends to running for mayor when he's going to cost the city of Miami in the millions of dollars. In the millions of dollars. So if he wants to do it to me, let's go right ahead. Make sure you bring a warrant, and make sure it's not a magistrate warrant, okay? Make sure it's a judge warrant to get into any of my properties. Period, end of story. I'm done with this.
Again, I understand the sensitivity of it, but I'm not trying to, I don't know what. Mr. City Attorney,
I think you accurately described it. I mean, we've had other elected officials and or city managers that were, I know of a couple city commissioners where a citizen made a complaint, and it's just an allegation, right? When somebody goes to code enforcement and says there's a violation on your property, it's merely an allegation. The next phase is to have an inspector go out to determine whether or not the violation actually exists. This case could probably have already been resolved by simply sending an inspector out, verifying that there's no violation present, and it would be resolved. So I think there's a misunderstanding of the whole code enforcement system at play here. But I share your concern, Madam Chair, with the notion that that a complaint can't be lodged against an elected official because
I'm not really thinking about the elected official. If we take that action, what about a neighbor files a complaint against, a code files an investigation, and they say, well, look what they did for themselves. And so I understand the sensitivity. I know his frustration. I agree. What happened was just political warfare that we're caught in the middle of it.
Right. And there's a Supreme Court case, Wren versus, I forget whom, but it basically stands for the proposition, the subjective intent of the complainer. It doesn't really matter. If the violation exists, it exists. So that should be the issue. And this commission directed the administration to change the concept from code enforcement to code compliance. And so really the vehicle is there a violation? Here's how you fix the violation. Mm-hmm. It's not about placing fines on people. So there should be no aspersion on a commissioner or any citizen who gets a violation. We're not all perfect. We sometimes get violations, and we fix those violations, and it's resolved. But I give the manager credit because he was put in the position of a rock and a hard place. He had a complaint come in against an elected official, and he could have just torn it up and thrown it away, but I believe he did the right thing and attempted to investigate it. And that's what you want your manager to do. That's what you want an independent, that's why we're arguing over the independent inspector general. You want him to have the courage and confidence to be able to investigate things. And, at the end of the day, this is not a critical issue for the commissioner. It's not any aspersion against the commissioner. We don't care what the intent of the complainer was. We just need to tick the boxes and make sure that the violation doesn't exist. And if the violation does exist, it's easy to comply with. So,
can we set a policy that if any of us is being investigated, that it should be done by an outside provider to have some distance? Saves the administration headaches, saves us headaches.
And one thing I wanted to mention was, like with crimes, it's easier to go to an outside agency because a Florida law enforcement officer, be it an FDLE, Miami-Dade County now deputy sheriff, can investigate and enforce the law, the Florida statutes. These code enforcement violations are unique to us, and so that's, I think, why many of the other outside agencies were reticent to take it up because they don't know our code, they don't know that. But there are private entities that specialize in this stuff, and
That's what I mean.
that would be the equivalent of an FDLE
Right.
is engaging with one of these private entities that have a license to be a Florida code inspector, and they can handle it.
So we're in agreement, we'll use a private entity.
I am.
I am. I mean,
I'd like to move that
There's no other.
the action moving
nobody
forward.
else wants it.
Right.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, no, thank you. Why? Forget it.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that would be the future course of action for the administration to take should an investigation, a code enforcement investigation be opened on anyone on the commission.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. All
And
in-
my apologies, Chair. So is this a direction to the manager and the city attorney, or just the manager to do what exactly?
The manager.
the manager to identify an
I think it's
outside.
Outside
clear that we
providers.
need to, the request is for us to onboard a private entity to be able to provide that service, in particular when it deals with code enforcement inspections of elected officials.
I'd also like to see Frank not try to investigate any of us.
I don't care.
I don't either.
Chair King, we do have Commissioner Gabello back on the dais. Commissioner Gabello, are you aware of a motion that's on the floor?
What I'm aware of is that I'm trying to be made a delinquent where I'm not. What I'm aware of is that while George is talking, I was watching on TV.
Your microphone.
I gotta be exposed like if I'm a guy that had, that I got something in my property. I got something to hide on my property just because Carollo decided to use his chief of staff and tell Art, that, you know what I mean? Because of political retaliation. I don't know what else to say here. You know what I mean? And now somehow I got to answer for something that I'm not even, whatever. The same thing with what my boats in my house. He started talking here what he doesn't know. Okay. And now somehow I got to pay attention to this. You know what I mean? And I got nothing to hide. And I gave I turned all of my the MRC building records on my property that they keep on your house, on my house, on everybody's house. I turned it over as evidence 4 months ago. So I still say, okay, this guy made an accusation. You were talking about an anonymous accusation, but this is not an anonymous accusation. This is an accusation from Joe Carollo, who finds himself now in the middle of a legal dispute, which has a $63 million judgment on top of his head that a jury awarded the plaintiffs. Okay, and now he's trying to do it to me and mess up my property's monetary value by somebody going over there and inventing stuff. Because if you guys were me, you guys would not put yourselves into that position. No way, no how, because this is not an anonymous complaint. This is a complaint from Joe Carollo himself, who has a track record of doing this and who, I repeat, has cost the city of Miami in the millions of dollars. Today, we had a shade meeting just about that. So what do you guys expect me to say up here? What do you expect me to do? To open my doors and to say, oh yeah, come on in and inspect me and find something, and then you're going to put it on there? Isn't it not enough that it's not an anonymous complaint? Isn't it not enough, Madam Chair, that you have said yourself, yeah, I'm being picked on? Isn't it not enough that this gentleman, his MO, modus of operandi, okay, has a track record? He's done this before, and now the city of Miami is paying in the millions of dollars because of his actions. And you guys, I can't believe this is happening. I don't know what to tell you people, that this is happening to me. Another elected official, charging another elected official, and you know what's going on. And then I hear you, George, saying, well, somebody can go over there. But why does somebody have to go over there? What have I done? I just gave you all my papers that I don't have any open violations. You know what I mean? Anonymous. This is not anonymous. This came from Joe Lizzo. So take the anonymous out of the equation, because this is not anonymous. This is from Joe Carollo and his chief of staff, which makes it highly doubtful, that I have violations. And that's what you guys should consider. This was a political maneuver by Joe Carollo himself, just like the park was. The minute I got into the park, let's make the park private. But not for the 8 years that he was there. Nobody here dared to tell him, hey, Commissioner, did you ever think that park can function better? No, because everybody's scared up here is what happens here. I'm the only guy that actually has told him what the hell's what here, okay? And people don't like it. He doesn't like it. And now I'm being asked to put myself into that position again. No, man, I'm not putting myself into that position. Okay, I got nothing to hide here. I got 0 violations, folks, 0 violations, and I'll make it to the Miami Herald. Miami Herald, since you guys are interested, I would urge you to come help me and make this public that I got 0 violations, so they don't talk any foolishness up here anymore. That my property's got to go be investigated. I don't have to be in those shoes. I've done nothing wrong.
Commissioner, I have a motion and a second. I need to open the floor for public comment. If there's anyone that would like to speak on behalf of this item, please step forward.
Mariela Gavela, that is my property he's talking about. If he tries to come, not only investigate their property, also investigate his property. I want to file a thing that I know that there's something in his property. So I want it to be investigated. Right now, you guys go investigate his property. I want court enforcement, but not Marilugo, not the people that work for him, not the people that you guys hire over the years that you have them working here, and he manipulates them, and all of you are afraid of him. Because you go to the office and you say to me, you the employees, you tell me how afraid you are of this guy. Okay? And he's done this to many people in the city of Miami over the years, and they're afraid of him. This is it. Okay? If you guys do this, I will file a lawsuit like Bill Fuller, and he will have to pay me. I don't know how, but I will file a lawsuit against him, and this will be the end of his time. And please, city of Miami, do not vote for that guy. You're voting for a delinquent. He's been since 1979 working, being commissioner, mayor, this and that. No, everybody's afraid of him. Developers, people that work in the city, all of you are afraid of him.
There's one more thing here.
Wait, let me finish public comment. Anyone else? Seeing no one for public comment period is now closed. You wanted to make another statement?
I'm trying to I don't see a way around this where there's not going to be a problem. Okay? I don't see a way around this where what you're proposing, there's not going to be a problem. Because this is like the day that my house was taken out of the district. My canal, back of my house, right in my canal, they didn't bother to go to, 4 blocks away or whatever. They took my house out of the district, okay, in June of 2023, so I could not run against Mr. Portilla, okay? I had to move to my other house 10 blocks away where he says that I have code violations, okay? I came in front of this body and I spoke and I let all you guys know, hey, this is what's going on. Please put my house back in, while his house in the Grove was put in to accommodate him when his house in the Grove was never part of D3, folks, never part of D3. And everybody here went along with it. Nobody said anything. My house was taken out, his house was put in. I had to fight my way to get here, okay? I had to live 10 blocks away in my other house, okay, so I can finish the campaign. I've been through hardship. While I was here, the city attorney interfered in the election, I contend, okay? And lawsuits after lawsuits came in, and one day she says to me, I work for you now, and I go, I don't understand, because you got a 3rd lawsuit against me. You lost 2 already, you got 1 more against me, and you say you work for me. I don't understand this, okay? I don't know what else to say, but it seems when certain people speak of corruption, I guess there's something going on here in the water, or what, that this is being talked about again. You know what I mean? And there's going to be, if you think you're going to go over my house, Joe Carollo, okay, and you're going to do what you did to Bill Fuller and Company, it ain't going to happen, my friend. It ain't going to happen, okay? Because I'm as much as a commissioner as you are, okay? And everybody knows what you do. Everybody knows your mode of operandi. Everybody knows your history, okay? And everybody knows that that's why the city of Miami now, the taxpayers should know that that's why the city of Miami now is into the millions of dollars that we've already settled and yet to settle. And this man has the audacity, okay, to come to Art Noriega, which he himself has been in trouble for this and not of his own making, and tell him to go investigate my house. I mean, I don't know, my friend. I mean, are you willing to go through this again? And now you're not dealing only with a politician, which is me. My wife, is also the property owner. Now you're doing other stuff, okay? Which she is not. She's not the elected. I'm the elected, okay? So for this business, that you guys should take this serious and say you're going to have a private citizen, a private company go over there or whatever. Man, you're wasting tax dollars on something that you guys know doesn't even merit anything, because this is not anonymous. This is on record, and that will be introduced into court, how this came to be, how his chief of staff sent a letter to Art. Art didn't even show me that letter for 24 hours because Art was caught in the crossfires, which I understand. He was put in a difficult, position. You know what I mean? But to live this over again, what we just got through, boy, you got to have some. Let me tell you, you got to have. I'm not even going to say the word to make this happen again. And think that you're going to give it away with. Anybody here thinks that they're going to get away with this? I got news for you. I'm a fighter, okay, and I'm innocent, and I already proved, that I got 0 violations. And for you guys to be talking about this again, that somebody should, if you got nothing to fear, let them in. No. As far as I know, I'm in the United States of America. There's due process. You got to charge me with something, okay? What is it? That Joe Carollo told you that I got something because Joe Carollo hates me, right? You think that's reasonable, George? If somebody would say to you, if I would do the same thing to him, would that be reasonable to you, or would you say, gee, let's see what's going on here? But you guys act like, I got to do the code thing and I got to do that. And when you know what he's doing, and you're setting yourselves up for another lawsuit. And again, here we go again. But if that's the way you guys want to play it, okay, and you're going to force me into getting, and I said it on June 14th, 2023, you're taking my house out of the district. This is illegal what you're doing. I said it here, and nobody did anything about it. They proceeded. If you guys want to do it today, and you guys want to proceed, there'll be legal problems, okay? I will be forced to sue the city of Miami. My wife will also have to defend herself, okay? And that'll be that. That's all I have to say. I got nothing else to say.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
Motion carries 3-1. DI 5.
Co-sponsored this along with the administration. I'm happy to provide a little bit of context. It's essentially one of the things I campaigned on was permitting reform. So I do want to give our assistant city manager Marrero credit and all the department heads related to planning and zoning and building because they have very much stepped forward. There's still a lot of work to be done, but I think we're making progress. We've set up a series of goals, and I think what he's going to present today has to do more with the software, which is one of the things that's very much criticized by folks that are out there trying to pull permits, whether they are building big buildings or just trying to do bathroom renovations. It's one of the things that needs a lot of work, but I think we're on a good path.
All right. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Commissioners. We have a quick presentation on some entitlement reforms that we put together a workshop with outside stakeholders and a lot of city employees from each of the infrastructure departments so that we can go ahead and continue always brainstorming on how to expedite our permitting process. So we're going to give you some insight as to a lot of the progress that we have made on that front, as well as we actually expanded and did some reforms, or will be presenting some reforms as well from the building department and from Public Works. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Graham, who has been nothing short of outstanding leading that effort for the city. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Commission. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak with you this afternoon. My name is Graham Jones, Assistant Director of Planning. Staff are incredibly proud of the work that's been ongoing for the last few months. Real improvements have been made, and we're very excited to provide you with a highlight update report this afternoon. Just very briefly, there's a number of entitlements that you can apply for through the City of Miami. They're mostly administrative. They allow you to deviate from the Miami 21 zoning code to different degrees, but most of the projects do go by right through the planning system. But in any case, we want to ensure maximum efficiencies when these entitlements are applied for. There are pros and cons to entitlements. The most important is that when you do apply for an entitlement, when you deviate from the code, there is a neighbor notification process. Neighbors are made aware of the entitlement being applied for. There is a right of appeal. We then do a full review of the deviation from the code and prepare a report. And like I said, the majority are administrative. There are some challenges that come with entitlements. There is some uncertainty involved in terms of what would be the purview of the review. That does create some delay in the building and construction process. There is some conflicting criteria within the code, so it can be a challenge for applicants to know what criteria we're reviewing the application against. And there is a lot of complexity that comes with applying for an entitlement. Usually you require some kind of legal support involved in that entitlement. So the City of Miami established, with the help of leadership, a cross-functional working group to review the entitlement processes. Our goal is to build on the recent achievements of the Miami 21 Task Force that provided us recommendations, as well as to build on the recent improvements that we've been making over the last few years. So success to us in this program is the implementation of a series of short-term and strategic actions that increase by right opportunities and deliver clarity, efficiency, and consistency. Just very briefly, there's a core team that the planning department's leading on, with myself managing the program. But most important, there's a cross-departmental working group that involves zoning, building, public works, it involves fire and others to assist us along the way. We've also engaged regular applicants, attorneys, building permit runners and other developers and specialist stakeholders in the process to get their feedback along the way. There's, in terms of a program timeline, we got the mandate back in April 2025. We've held 6 workshops since then. That included brainstorming, testing of the ideas. We've been drafting amendments, and we're now bringing forward amendments in a rolling program up through PZAB and City Commission. I just want to briefly touch on the work that's been going on over the last few years. It is fair to say 3 years ago we had a very challenging starting point. Entitlements were taking too long. There was a lot of uncertainty. We were getting real complaints about the times involved in processing those permits. So the department has been very much focused on establishing and meeting these timelines. We've been training and providing the right skills to the department. We've been having focused teams on certain project application types, improving checklists and templates, and most importantly, filling vacancies. That we had a high volume of vacancies that had to be filled, and that was impacting on the number of entitlements and the processing times. It's interesting to note that generally speaking, the number of entitlements has maintained a fairly steady number over recent years. It's dropped a little bit in the last year as that follows broader market conditions. But it's also important to note that our kind of sister program that we ran a few years ago, which was titled the Waiver Reform Program, did result in a large number of projects going by right rather than through an entitlement process. In terms of our performance indicators, we've also been focused on ensuring that the first cycle review is within our KPIs and we've been hitting between 90 and 100% now for the last 6 months. We've also been continuously running a program of policy improvements. More than any time in the history of Miami 21, we've been very much focused on improving, positive outcomes for the city, a very modern code, and we continue to run a fairly aggressive program of code amendments that respond to feedback from applicants and ensuring that we get, affordable housing processed quickly, and we respond to other market demands. We're about 40% of the way through Miami 21 Task Force recommendations, so we've also been making good progress on responding to the feedback from industry. So very briefly, the highlights of the program, like I mentioned, is to build on the recent improvements, modernize, clarify the code, but in particular, the thing we're most focused on is where we can make projects go by right, that's where we want them to go. So we don't necessarily need everything to go through an entitlement where we can create clear criteria that if the project is within that criteria, meets the design requirements, then it can go by right. If it doesn't meet that criteria, then of course there should still be the entitlement process. So this is a progress update in terms of our Planning, Zoning and Appeals Board schedule. We've already taken through personal service wireless facilities, received almost unanimous approval, a lot of positive feedback from industry that we're supporting and modernizing cell phone technology and making sure the city is supportive in terms of businesses within that rely on these services. We made micro-dwelling units by right rather than through a warrant process because they're really only locationally specific. We're very much focused on the educational reform in terms of making sure there's an efficient process there and supporting opportunities for early childcare in our urbanizing areas. We're also looking at opportunities for residential in religious uses, and also looking at being a lot more flexible in terms of auto-related commercial, and looking very much at trying to support those uses within an urbanized context so people aren't driving out to the suburbs to do that. The next one we're very much focused on is one of the projects that began the process initially, and that was adult daycare. So again, depending on the scale of the adult daycares you're proposing, you'll either be by right or you'll go through a warrant process. And then we have a full spectrum of other ideas that are coming down the pipeline, and some of those are outlined there. So this is our current program phase. We've started to bring amendments forward. We're continuing to do workshops. We've had this City Commission briefing and drafting discussion item, and then we're very much looking forward to technical workshops around these topics and bringing them forward to you. So we anticipate the program continuing over the next 6 months and just continuing to roll out these program of amendments and bringing efficiencies to the entitlement process. So I appreciate your feedback and your support as we continue to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we also have a few other things that we want to very quickly cover for building and for public works.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Just to give you some updates on some of the customer service enhancements we've done to streamline our permitting processes and make it a more user-friendly experience. We have implemented QFlow, which is a queuing system that allows customers to schedule appointments for permitting services from their computers or mobile phones, and also at the kiosks at MRC. We've expanded the Homeowners Assistance Program and the Small Business Permit Clinic. We now have a presence on the first floor of MRC, and we're going to be having an official ribbon cutting for that in the coming few days, maybe next week or the following week, and we will make sure to invite you all. We're very, very happy with what we've developed there. We've implemented Homeowners Express Review for certain residential permit applications, such as the ones that are more simple, roofing, windows, doors, etc. We have been monitoring our building call center, which receives hundreds of calls a day, and we're mining that data to better understand the needs of our customers and also develop enhancements that will add to the efficiency of the department. Working with the Chief Data Officer, we are implementing a public-facing portal for the building department. This public-facing portal will allow our customers to monitor daily statistics on volumes and flows and review times. It'll also be a very useful tool for us as we operate the department. And also, we have updated educational content and resumed online and in-person training on all permitting systems for both internal and external stakeholders. Our enterprise permitting division is leading the successful implementation of a comprehensive software solution for permitting and licensing. As you all know, we currently have iBuild, but we are looking at a new enterprise software system that will be a single point of entry for all permit applications across all departments, which is probably one of the biggest complications that we have. It will allow for the sharing of data and reporting on one platform. It will identify and document all business processes, and we are developing a scope document to identify the priorities for this system, those priorities I just mentioned. We're looking at everything. We're looking at existing contracts, we're looking at new contracts, and we hope to leverage all of this analysis and investigation into a robust system that will carry us beyond iBuild and into the future. As part of this process, we've hired Barry Dunn, which is a consulting team, and they are developing the business requirement document, the BRDs, for our new enterprise system, and that process is well underway. The completion of the BRDs will be around April of next year, and with that, we'll have a fully established, defined path forward for a new enterprise system. At the same time, we continue to make enhancements and improvements to iBuild, our current enterprise system, because we don't want to ignore it, because we anticipate that we're on a 2-year mission on this, at least 2 to 3 years, to full deployment of the new system. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
I have one. Would I be able to get a permit clinic in my district? Like, could we schedule permit clinics in my district?
Absolutely.
I would love that.
Sure.
I'd love to.
We'll do that gladly. We'll get together with you or your chief of staff, and we'll set it up.
Okay, perfect.
You're welcome.
I also have a question. It's more along the lines of AI and the applications of AI in these systems as we move forward. You were mentioning 2 to 3 years. Is there an opportunity for an integration of more AI-driven modules?
We are actually, that's a great question. We have been approached by many different AI companies that offer different solutions, all the way from how do we integrate with our permitting process and expedite that, or better facilitate the intake for the permitting process, to new technologies where AI can now assist with the permitting review, with the permit review process. So in other words, you upload your drawings to this AI technology, and they will tell you, they will read the plans and will tell you essentially what are the code deficiencies in some of these plans. So we're looking at this new technology, see how we can best integrate this with our systems, and always looking to how not only how we can use it internally, but also how we can make it outside facing, so that our users can also take advantage of that technology as they are developing their construction drawings and their documents for and before they present it to the city. So absolutely, that's a major technology component that we'll be integrating into this solution going forward.
Thank you.
Commissioner Rosado, anything?
One of the things that I want to highlight for building is that besides the small business permit clinic, the homeowners assistance program has been extremely successful, and we are going to take it to the next level in trying to reach as many homeowners as possible. the mayor was kind enough to say that he was going to help us. We want to send flyers, physical flyers, to every single homeowner in the city, letting them know what these services are available. Maybe a couple of times a year as we reach out to them for things like floodplain, hurricanes, and stuff like that, and really letting them know, look, if you are the homeowner, all of these services are available to you as you get your building permit for free. And we help you from the very beginning until you get your building permits finalized. So we're going to continue putting that word out to our community to make sure that they know what the services are and how they can reach out to us and take advantage of them. And then the last component that I have is very quickly, just one slide, for Public Works and a couple of initiatives that we have in that department to also assist and expedite with the permitting process.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Juvenal Santana, Director for the Department of Residence and Public Works. So a few things that we are looking at, in particular to some of them being the right-of-way improvements that are required for projects. One is to look at how that is set in the code and figure out if there's a way to have a higher certainty to the cost that may be required as part of a project that's going to have to be put into the public right-of-way infrastructure. And also sometimes there are things that end up lingering a bit at the end of a project with regard to completion of certain right-of-way improvements, and getting these buildings occupied sooner rather than later is always a benefit. So creating a process by which an agreement can be had that all life safety issues are being taken care of in the right-of-way, but allows a building to begin to occupy and being filled out while everything is being completed. And that's specific to Chapter 54, 56. On the subdivision regulations in Chapter 55, 15, we are looking at adopting a method that is already being used by the county, where it's, if you want to close and vacate a public right-of-way, and you control both sides of that, you wouldn't necessarily have to plat. You would have to go through a process which is basically you have it reviewed by all the relevant departments, and you're able to close a right-of-way and not have to replat. That would make the time change on projects sometimes 18 to 24 months shorter. And last but not least, looking at traffic statement and impact studies, looking at a mechanism by which the pool of consultants that the city has, that process would sunset, and we would provide the ability for someone to come in, and it would be peer reviewed. So we would have their studies reviewed by someone who is qualified, specifically a professional traffic and operations engineer, and then amending exactly what's going to be required as part of those improvements.
Thank you.
Thank you. And if you have any other questions, I'll be more than happy to take it. Otherwise, this is the...
Do you need us to take any action on this?
No, this was... there's going to be a lot of items coming up before Commission over the next 3 to 6 months. A lot of these changes will require a code amendment. So, be on the lookout. There's going to be a lot of those, and we are obviously always looking for your support and your sponsorship for these items.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If I could add just one thing, do folks, as they pull permits, are they surveyed? Is there like an online survey?
Yes, at the end of your application process, there's always a survey, which we always looking for that information and feedback from the applicant. Additionally to that, we have a QR code at every window where it can be scanned, and our citizens can provide a live feedback on how those services are being provided by the City of Miami employees.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The last item on our agenda is DI 6. Mr. Manager?
So this is a very kind of simple, this shouldn't take very long. So we received a proposal, unsolicited, to program the the area that's located towards the back of Virginia Key, which is currently being remediated by Miami-Dade County, has contaminations. That process has been going on for a number of years already. And we received unsolicited proposals. Part of that proposal is a very, I'd say a very robust proposal, but really not entirely in line with the master plan. So I met with each of you individually. We kind of briefly talked about it. And I think the outcome of my conversations with all of you was probably it would be best to issue an RFP for that footprint and invite a lot of other organizations, and obviously that one as well if they want to submit. But now that we're getting to a point where there is sort of a light at the end of the tunnel in terms of the remediation, and we know how long the process takes to do an RFP, solicit proposals, do the evaluation, might make sense to start that process now. And at the very least, we'll be able to do a much deeper dive in terms of how to program that area, and you know, under the guidance of the elected body, you know, kind of get some feedback. But my idea to bring it as a discussion item was really just to make sure that the commission is comfortable with that direction, and to reaffirm that.
Commissioner Pardo?
Yeah, happy to give some direction here, just because there has been a lot of work with Commissioner Regalato's office, the Village of Key Biscayne, and the existing area. And I think a good starting point is the Virginia Key Master Plan that was done a while back. I think 2010 it was completed, or 11. But a lot of the goals and a lot of the statements are still very relevant. I know a lot of charrettes, a lot of workshops, a lot of groups, a tremendous amount of time and effort went into producing that. So I just want to make sure that we are valuing all of that information from our residents, and that we're also valuing the input from the other people that hold jurisdiction in the area as we move forward on any kind of RFP.
I'd like to make a motion that we put forth an RFP process that includes as backup information, all the reports that Commissioner Pardo has mentioned. If you know, folks spent a lot of time providing input, then it's important for that input to be taken into consideration. But I would like to see what kinds of ideas could emerge.
Okay.
I have a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That shall conclude the City of Miami Commission meeting for October 23rd, 2025. Thank you all.